That's another Nodevember in the can, huh? And most of December. It took a few weeks, cool my jets, and now I'd like to go back over these projects with the benefit of hindsight. Kind of talk about how things went, what I learned, maybe what I would do differently. Big picture, overall development, I guess the main thing that happened was I became a lot more comfortable on camera. Like, who cares, right? But it actually helps me a whole lot in the editing process and helps the whole thing come together quicker. The second thing I got out of this was just a lot of catalog and a further cementing of the idea that has really been kind of a constant through a lot of the things in my adult life, which is that nothing happens with any of this stuff unless you go and do it. For example, if you look at your channel right now and it's like, oh no, I don't have anything to show you here. Well, that's because you didn't upload anything there. The site isn't yet all AI generated content just filling your channel with nonsense. It's DLSS 5.0. You don't even have to hit the play button anymore. We're AI generating imagery that makes you feel as if you have had a worthwhile gaming experience. I mean, that pays for itself over time, right? And that kind of justifies the subscription pricing. Take this video, for example. Why did it take so long? That's on your boy. That's because I didn't go and do it. So let's get into it then. Oh, alright, I guess I should go over kind of the rules that I gave myself this year. I think I've been pretty clear about the stuff in Blender. You know, except for the camera and a couple of lights, everything is done in nodes, including the world environment. So no HDRIs, you gotta slap something together with textures. In previous years, I could use the base object with the subdivision modifier, but this year, all the geometry has to come out of geometry nodes. Delete the group input even, so no default cylinder, just send it. And then this year, the time frame had to be strictly obeyed. 2 days for each prompt and the making of the videos, and I didn't want any late videos. So this actually introduced like an interesting cost-benefit analysis to the whole process. I can spend more time developing the textures and geometry, but if I can only afford to render like a few samples, that work is essentially wasted. I mean, I knew beforehand that this was kind of what it was like in game design or filmmaking or whatever, where it's like, okay, you have this window of time, and stuff can happen in here. And maybe there's like some pre-prep that can happen over here, but mostly we're working in this window. And that means that everything from start to finish has to be done. And then there's a go date. Now I'm just a guy, like trying to do this little thing after work on a completely arbitrary deadline, but even I kind of felt that, you know? Well, this has been kind of a tangent. So at the beginning of November, I had basically no experience with I might as well just say I had no experience with the current iteration of GeoNodes, and I had very little before that. And I did no prep or study or anything before any of this, so I was kind of going in blind on day 1 and 2. And that meant that I spent the whole time learning the fundamentals. And at the end of that, the result was so, like, rudimentary. I don't really even feel like including it in this video. I mean, at the time it was like, okay, you know, I've got to make a video for this, so I guess I just have to sit here and act like this is okay. But like, man. Shoo. So we'll start with day 3 and 4. I kind of like day 3 and 4. I mean, I think for what I knew at the time, it's pretty close to what I wanted to make. I did another one that was pretty close to this later, and I like that one a bit more, but I think that given limitations, it's pretty good. Oceanic Wonder. So the first 4 days were all about learning the basics, and this one was kind of about, like, can I take those fundamentals and form a kind of a composition? And I think it's okay. I mean, looking at it now, there are definitely things that I would add, but I also think it's easy to see the imperfections in your own work, so. Day 7 and 8, this one was kind of interesting because I only went into a couple of new nodes and I applied them immediately because I was actually feeling pretty confident with GeoNodes at this point. Day 9 and 10, I can't remember why this one... Oh yeah, it's in the thumbnail. Passing attributes. Lots of applications here. I'm sure I really only scratched the surface. I'd love to find some way to interpolate the value. It seems like unless your object is highly subdivided, you're gonna end up with a pretty hard cutoff there. Other than that, definitely seems like something I want to know how to do. Day 11 and 12. This one. This is a go. If I had to pick one that's like the best, I'd say it's probably this. Very little that I would change about it. Probably the only thing is like the entire gear is the same material, and I think probably the sides should be different. Day 13 and 14, yeah, Dream Depot. Motion graphics. I like them quite a bit, and I wish that this were a good example of them. It was more of an exercise to fulfill the requirements. We're just gonna move on. Day 15 and 16 was this Arctic cave. I had a lot of fun with this one, even if there were some issues, you know. I explained in the video there were some texture things happening that I didn't really like. Not a lot to say here. I mean, it's not that complicated. It was a lot of chaining together different selections. It was actually kind of like sculpting with different size brushes. Day 17 and 18, the microcosmic forest. I actually just opened this one up the other day, and it still doesn't work even in the current version of Blender. I don't know why it's broken. I don't really care that much. You know, that's just kind of how I feel about it. Day 19 and 20. This one really solidified to me that geonodes are the solution for foliage. I mean, this one was done very quickly down here, but I just kind of called it. Yeah, I just remember that aside from playing a bunch of Cyberpunk, I was really busy at work, and I was like so tired whenever I got home, and it was really hard to work on this stuff. Day 21 and 22. This one performed the best out of all the videos, but I'm pretty sure that you can just slap a companion cube on anything and get a bunch of free views, so I'm not sure that that counts. Day 23 and 24, Impossible Pathway. Now this is the one that I was talking about earlier. And it's actually in the description. It's what I would have wanted to make on day 3 and 4 if I were better equipped. So I was glad to have a chance to reverse engineer another prompt into a second try at this. Day 25 and 26. Oh look, it's Alan calling.
Yeah, hey, this is Alan. Didn't really feel like doing that, so probably not gonna.
Day 27 and 28. This one I really like. If you look at the source material from Cyberpunk, I'm really not that far off, and I think that with just a little bit more development time, I could match it. But of course, matching it is not really the point. I mean, I wanted to make my own kind of take on it, and I'm really happy with the way that it ended up. Day 29 and 30. Now, as cool as it would have been to close out with something really extravagant, I got distracted on a couple of things and it ate up a bunch of time. It was probably a bunch of math. I had like these grand ideas of a tribute to Outer Wilds, not the Outer Worlds, but Outer Wilds. But eventually I thought that maybe that's something I should do with no limitations and kind of give it its due. So overall, I mean, I think this actually went really well. There were good videos, there were bad videos. Learning in public definitely gets an A+. I mean, everybody should try that. It's super embarrassing. I'm Alan Simpson. I'm an artist and a guy who plays video games and stuff. Honestly, there are a bunch of buttons down below this video. I'm not sure that any of them work anymore. And I can't in good faith ask you to do any smashing of any buttons anyway, because I hate that stuff. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, you know, I'm just here.